Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. You are joining the 7 factors of deciding when to move a person with dementia. We're going to go over the importance of knowing the person's capabilities and behaviors, what to look for when researching communities, the right fit for your loved one's current and future needs, and the factors that are not important but families may think they are. Welcome. My name is Paige Fairbanks-Gunn. I'm one of the regional directors for Kelch Communities, and we are just so happy that you are here today. Thank you for joining. Pam?
Thanks, guys. I have a few housekeeping things and then we'll kick off. So if you're new to this forum and our webinars, we do these monthly, fourth Tuesday of every month, typically. And this is really Paige and I fielding caregiver questions. So people have written in, or they're people who have asked us, called us, contacted us. And these are their questions about this particular topic. It's not a presentation, there's no slides. On Friday, you'll receive the recording, which you can review multiple times, as many times as you want. You can share it with friends. You know, that's what's most important, is that you share it with your family and friends so that they understand, the concept as well. You can unsubscribe simply by replying to any of the emails that I've sent. That way it makes sure that the emails can continue to be delivered elsewhere. It's a thing with software. So please don't hit the unsubscribe button. I do send out one message prior to the next webinar to this mailing list, just to let you know what the next one is, and you're welcome to join. Which, speaking of the next one, it is Tuesday, August 25th. So we look forward to you joining us then. And now, just a reminder, we don't typically turn your audio on. So if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat. Give us a little bit of detail so we know what you're talking about and can help you as best way possible. Okay. So we're going to talk about these 7 factors. These are 7 of probably many more, but these are the key ones that Paige and I end up, running into. So Paige, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All
Let's
right.
go.
All right. A caregiver asks, my mom was diagnosed with mild to moderate cognitive impairment. She lives with my dad, but seems sad and lonely. When do I know it's time to move her into a group or a community living? Is it selfish for my dad to want to stay home when she moves? All right, let's go.
This is one of the hardest things families go through, is especially when there's a couple. You have mom and dad. It can be very complicated. And this is one of the hardest decisions that you're going to go through, whether you're a spouse, adult child. But really, the biggest thing that I work with families are, number one, first and foremost, are they safe? And what can they do and what can they not do? And really, what does that look like? How do you break that down? And you really have to start getting a list together of, can mom do laundry? Can she still cook a meal? Can she still do some of the basic needs that we do day to day? And, meals are huge. Is it safe that she can do them, if she can do them? Another thing is also, if she's having out of the house activities, what does she like to do? Is she enjoying what she's doing with other people? That's another thing. If your mom is really social and you're taking her out of the home or having someone come in to have like a social setting or something, is she who she used to be if she was a social person? Now, of course, this is a broad question, okay? Everybody has different parents, different spouses. Everyone is different. But if you see those changes going on, that's definitely a change in her condition, number one. Number two, where is she in her cognitive abilities? But can she shower? Is she dressing herself appropriately? Is she wearing the same clothes a couple times a week? Or maybe is she wearing the same clothes every day? And maybe dad Maybe dad doesn't, maybe he notices it, maybe he doesn't. But what are you looking at? What are you looking and trying to really comb through to see what is happening with mom and dad and their situation as a whole? It's really looking at the whole picture. Um, and these daily tasks can feel extremely overwhelming, especially for someone that has dementia. I mean, Pam, we live in a very fast life these days, right? We
Yeah,
live in a
between the
very
phones, the emails, the voicemails. Yeah,
I've got two
absolutely.
phones. Yeah, I mean, we live in
Yeah,
a very fast-paced world, and for those adult children that are on this call, you know, think about how things are our daily tasks as a whole. If you can think about your parents trying to do these things at home, I mean, it's overwhelming.
it is. And
Just taking care of a
especially,
house.
right. And just processing, one of the biggest things that happens with dementia is that you lose the ability, you lose the process, the order
Yes.
of the way we do things. Think of it as baking a cake and not knowing, do I put the eggs in first? Do I put the flour in first? How do I create that? And so, that's important. But, kind of to get to the second most important thing, just you know, most of you, most caregivers, most family members have never done this before. They've never
Mhm.
run into someone who's unable to process the instruction. We're going to go to the doctors. What that means is
Mhm.
I got to brush my teeth. I got to get dressed. I got to put on my shoes, got to grab a jacket, maybe. I mean, that's a list. And they will just sit there. They're not going to move because they have no idea where to start. So, as family members, we can't provide, and I lived this. Like my dad said, well, we'll just build an ADU in your backyard and you can take care of us. And I'm like, how would I do that running my own company? So I said, it's not that I don't love you guys, but I don't have the skill set to care for you. I don't have the education. And so that's how we, excuse me, we navigated to them moving to independent living and assisted living and then assisted
Mhm.
living and memory care. And that's important. And as far as the father feeling like he's being selfish, here's the thing. It's really hard after decades of being together, or even one decade, to let go of the emotional ties. And that's the
Mhm.
thing. You don't have to. You want to be the spouse, but you don't have to be the spouse in memory care with your loved one when you don't have any, cognitive impairment. So you can still be loving and supportive,
Mhm.
but if the home is, you have to look at it, your vows were to death till death do us part. It wasn't to care for this person in a situation. It's not sickness. This is beyond sickness. This
Yes.
is unable to care for yourself.
Yep.
And so you have to realize that you want the best care possible for this person and you can't provide it. But that doesn't mean you give up your life, your golf with your friends, hanging out. That's what's going to keep you healthy so that you can be there for your spouse. Otherwise, you're just going to run yourself into the ground. And I don't know what the statistic is, but it's very likely that a caregiver will get sick or pass away before the
Right.
person with dementia because the person with dementia doesn't have any worries. So,
That's
all
right.
right, Paige, we have a
That's
lot to
true.
cover, so I want to go ahead and move on if you're okay with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so all right. Number two, I've been trying to come up with ideas for things for my dad with dementia to do to help his brain. I give him crossword puzzles, Sudoku, and TV shows. Are those good activities to help my dad?
all right, let's break down each of those because the thing about cognitive impairment is that you're not trying to keep the brain busy. You're trying to continue its ability to learn and process. And what's gone might be gone permanently, but it might only be gone for a little while. The thing about dementia is that it seems like the condition and their acuity, their severity of their symptoms changes. So you
Mhm.
really don't know what you're dealing with from day to day or potentially hour to hour. So TV, absolutely not. Hands down, no. And here's why. unless you're wanting them to relax in the evening to go to sleep. And don't
Mhm.
watch any crime shows because then they're going to have nightmares and they're going to be up all night. But watching something fun, easy to watch, not anything complicated. Golf is great because that'll put you to sleep. Uh, so, because they talk really quietly and they do golf claps. But Sudoku is actually good because it's moving math. It's visually looking at numbers, aligning them, doing the math, and that's good. Just like a jigsaw puzzle, not a crossword puzzle.
Mhm.
A crossword puzzle, a lot of people think that mental stimulation is about memory. It's not. It's about learning and critical thinking, visual acuity, like spatial acuity, shape recognition. We call it
Mhm.
visual perception, problem solving. Like, where does this go? You're looking at a piece of a puzzle. You're trying to figure out like the shape, the colors, all of those things to put that piece in the right spot. Now, don't get a 1,000-piece puzzle. That's mean. Uh, I can't even do a 1,000-piece puzzle, at least not in any record time. So, get a 100-piece puzzle and do it with them. Don't sit them down at a table by themselves. Make sure that this is these are the memories you're going to have moving forward. So make them pleasant and make them enjoyable. My mom loved baking cookies. And so this was one of the reasons I gave dad for moving mom into memory care. I said, look, you can't provide enough stimulation for her. You would rather she sit in the living room at the apartment and just watch you sleep while you have TV on. I said, that's not going to help her. So, when she moved into Rock Creek in Arizona, which is a Kelch community, she got to bake. The chef and,
Mhm.
and the caregivers would help them mix the dough and everything. She had a little chef's hat. And she got to paint, which she never had done before. And she got to play. And they allowed her to play by giving her things that would stimulate her thinking. That's what you need. That's what your loved
Mhm.
one needs. And that is part of the best care possible formula in my mind. What do you think, Paige? What are your thoughts on this question?
Well, this is where a memory care assisted living community can really shine and thrive for your loved one. Um, I've been working in communities since 1997. I've seen over the years where we were, where we have been, and where we are going, and how many things that we have done to improve life over the years. And this is where they thrive. They thrive in an environment where they have engagement with other people. They, this is again where you have a whole community of leadership team. You have an active living director that is scheduling activities, and we have staff in a community that are coordinators that get your residents. We have this spouses, they'll come and get your spouse, your mom, and your dad, and get them engaged with other people and help them. It's one of those things. We have musical entertainment. We have the petting zoo that comes in. We do bus rides. They get to go out. They're living their best life. Now, not saying this isn't rocky and that there are times that there are difficult. There are moments, believe me. However, there when they are settled into a community and you get over the hump of the transition, this is where they thrive and they're actually stimulating their brain. And loneliness is not good for your loved ones. Loneliness is not good for anybody. It's not good for anybody, people that don't have dementia. So, having staff that are trained, that understand, and that live and breathe dementia 24 hours a day, this is where they're going to thrive in a community. You'd be surprised at there's a lot of families that I work with, and they're like, my mom would never do that. She's never going to do that. And I said, okay, that's fine. Absolutely. You know your mom best. Absolutely. But you would be surprised at them when mom gets in
They're
there.
usually wrong.
Well, it's not that the family or spouse are wrong. They're not wrong. this is who their loved one was or that they are at certain times. So, you know what I mean? It's yes, in the moment, yes, because the forgetfulness, the dementia, the disease, their broken brain is not working properly.
Right.
So
Well, it's
it's
changed
something, yeah,
too.
yeah.
What they
Oh,
like
totally.
one day
Mhm.
is something they don't like the next, and vice versa.
Yes. Yeah. It's like
So it's about evolving.
my mom hated peas, now she likes peas.
Exactly.
Your mom, same thing. She didn't like this and now she likes it.
Exactly. Never painted before in her life. And all of a
Right.
sudden she's painting birdhouses. Well, and the the thing that's interesting is this will drive a caregiver nuts. This
Yes.
behavior of
Yes.
I don't want to do this, I do want to do this. Nope, not anymore. It's the reverse. And I'm going to ask you a million questions. And this is what wears down caregivers. And what we're trying to avoid here is how do you get your loved one the best care possible while not killing the caregiver, and also making sure that the caregiver maintains their relationship, father, son, husband, wife, whatever that might be. Donna said, my husband only wants to watch Westerns all day long. I feel bad that I let him, but there's so little he can do now. And ultimately, Paige, I'm going to ask you a question here. Could
Yeah.
Donna take her husband in to, say, a Kelch community, be
Yes.
evaluated by a nurse, and then
Yes.
that nurse say, yes, we have things that can help him navigate the world better, or
Yes.
no, you're right, he's too far beyond that. And so, if you want to keep him at home, that's fine, but there's not much more we can do for stimulation. Is that a reasonable thing for a care community specifically? I know Kelch does. I'm pretty sure Kelch does it.
Yes.
No. So
Yes.
Donna, do that.
Yes, and
Um,
yes, you're absolutely right, Pam. I mean, I think that I hope that every community does that. I know we do, and I think as a general rule, yes, communities and great communities do this. What I would do is absolutely, I would want to bring you in and just bring your dad in, or let us do a home visit. And really the thing is bring him into the community and
Respite, come in for a
let's have him come
day.
in for an activity and just an hour or two, and we're with him and we're basically assessing, and our nurse is assessing, and then we come back and bring the family feedback and say, dad did really well, or we've got some things we need to work on, or we have to, and it's all a strategy. We've got to come up with a plan on how he's going to get there and why he's there and all these things.
Right.
So yes, we love doing that, because that way that starts a conversation to help families and spouses and adult children to be able to figure out, what do I do next?
Right.
We have people that come in for day stay and hourly care in our Kelch communities that, they're like, there's no way. My dad's not going to do it. There's no way. We'll just bring him in for an hour or two and you let us handle it. And you can
Yep.
be in an area, or we can put you in a different area, or you can be with him. There's all sorts of different things that we can do. And we mold it towards the family.
And this is one of the criteria, because I know several of you wrote to me and said, what is it you use to determine what's a good community? This is one of the things, is what's the process for figuring out our strategy for how to maintain my loved one's cognitive capability, the current level, rather than allowing them to just rot in a wheelchair in a corner, which I have had that experience with my mom and I was furious. But the other thing you have to remember, Donna, specifically is, um, you 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 don't know what you don't know. You know your husband from before. You don't know what can happen with him and what can improve him. While he's at home, he may be a lump watching Westerns all day. You get him
Right.
out of that environment and into an environment that might be, more engaging, more stimulating. And not everybody likes to socialize. Paige is not saying you have to go sit with a bunch of people and do whatever it is. You're never forced to do anything, but you're encouraged, and someone will guide
Yes.
you, and you will have that personal, professional, dementia trained individual
Hmm.
helping your loved one navigate. Because honestly, that's probably one of the biggest lessons I learned. And, I didn't mention my book. It's not that simple, helping families navigate the Alzheimer's journey. But it covers our journey from a learning and lessons learned perspective, so that it's a guidebook. It's like, here's what's my situation, and here's what I should have done. Here's what I didn't do. Here are the things that I would recommend moving forward. And so just because he sits there, he only wants to do it because you're the one who asked him. I hate to say it that way, but you, Donna, have a role in his life, and he's not going to listen to you. That's the other thing. This was saying, the thing about moving to a community or a group home, whichever you decide and whichever qualifies best, when you do that, you learn that they respect them and their guidance more than they do your guidance. Because in their minds, you have no authority. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just telling me what to do as the husband or the wife. So we're going to ignore all that. So they will do things for other people, much more likely to do more those things than they are with you. So that's another reality check. And then Don and Sis say, we like game shows for guessing answers. Is that bad? Well, we don't talk about good and bad, but anything that does a memory test is fairly useless. Like, it's not going to help your brain grow any brain cells because that's recall. So technically what you're trying to do is learn. So depending on what level, your loved one is at, you want to be able to maybe play cards if they're capable of learning a new game, or use there's a lot of kids games. I put a link to the Alzheimer's store that has games and pictures and paints and all sorts of stuff. So you can take a look at that, and you can do a Google search for that kind of thing as well. But the idea is to not exercise the memory. The memory is either going to be there or it's not, but there's no point in frustrating yourselves. Go learn something, and there's so many things that you can learn at this point. And Donna said, and where are these places you speak of? We have a very small rural town in Texas. So Paige posted her contact information, and I think it's important for Donna, for you to maybe do a road trip. I know you're in a rural town, but here's the thing. This may require a physical move for you. And we have to, part of the criteria that I talk about in a little bit, and Paige has got a great list, is they don't have to be close to you necessarily. You're not going to visit them every single day. That's not good for you or them. They need to integrate and to become part of the community. So maybe you and Paige should have a chat to see what the possibilities are. There are tons of communities. We'll talk about that and how you research them in a little bit.
Yeah, Donna, just feel free to text me or email me. I'd be happy to sidebar with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can text her at that number too. You don't have to just call. Okay, number 3. Here's another caregiver question. I realize that it's probably getting time to move my dad into a group memory care setting. What are my options for moving into a group? So group memory care setting means there's other residents. It's not a private environment. So Paige, I know you have lots of ideas on this, so we'll let you go.
Gosh, okay. Well, there are so many options in this situation. There are if it were my parents, if it were my dad, my spouse, I would be going to a community because I'm in the industry and I know a lot of ins and outs. The difference is a community is you're going to have more residents, but you're going to have a lot more activities and engagement. You're going to have extremely, overly trained staff in communities, in my opinion. There are some wonderful group home options. I'm not saying that they're not. Those are great options for some people. But if you're looking for the engagement piece, a community, in my opinion, that you're going to get a lot more in a community because it's larger and there's more staff. So, and in a Kelch community, what I think is extremely important is one of the big key differences in a Kelch community across the nation, and we're in 8 different states. We have a nurse on site 24 hours a day in all of our licensed assisted living communities and our memory care communities. And I think that that's extremely important because licensed nurses can they help they can hold the caregivers more accountable. There's a lot more responsibility on the floor. There's a lot more supervision in the communities with a licensed nurse to enforce the trainings, and the trainings are happening all day. It's every day. And we live and breathe 24/7 dementia care in our communities. But also, too, is, a care community and a memory care community, they're safe, they're secure. Your loved one can walk around in the communities. They can do whatever they want. They can join in activities. They can not join if they don't want to. But the staff are constantly, it's all about the approach. It's all about, instead of saying, okay, Miss Mary, would you like to go to bingo today? Now that's a question, okay? We don't do it that way. We don't ask. It's not that we're not asking for their opinion and that we're not being kind. It's like, okay, Miss Mary, you know what? I need you to come down to the hall with me today. I need to show you something. Come on down. So it's all in the approach on how we work with our caregivers and everyone, and as we're training new people, and sometimes we have to bring in new people and we've got to train them, and then we have some that are very, very experienced, but it's all in the approach. So it's how we work with them through the daily life every single day. The security, we have motion sensors to detect if they're up and moving in the room. Now, it's not going to detect a fall, no, but it's going to let us know if they're up and moving. We have pull cords in the community where they can pull for help.
In their
Now,
bathrooms. I remember
in the
mom,
bathrooms.
one,
Yep.
if you're having problems, there's usually a caregiver with you anyway.
Right.
But if for some reason somebody, decides to use the bathroom by themselves, there's a pull cord there. And Paige, to your point, if somebody needs an alarm on their mattress, we can do that. And,
We can. We have to have an order for it, yes, but we
yeah,
can do that.
yeah, yeah.
And the goal is to the pull cords, you know, yes, like I mean, your mom, when she came in, she was able to pull it, but then eventually,
Right. She didn't know what it was for.
she didn't know what it was for. So really the pull cords are, yes, for the residents, for mom, dad, your spouse, but it's also for the staff too.
Yeah,
They're calling
right.
for another caregiver to come help me. And we have some residents that have keys in memory care. I mean, we have some of them that are able this they're still able to manage their apartment, their suite key. So it gets to a point where eventually the key we work through they're losing the key and now they can't manage the key anymore. So we're constantly behind the scenes making sure that they can be as independent as possible. But we understand that their short-term memory is not working. And
Okay.
sometimes their short-term memory is resetting every 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes every 20 to 30 seconds.
And you have three more to go on this list. So, and it's already the bottom of the hour.
I know, I know.
We
I
were
knew this
worried
was going to
about
be a
this
big
going
one.
long, but yes.
I know, I know. Okay, we got to stay on task. Okay. Number four.
No, it's the third bullet in number 3.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Ah,
So, yeah,
yes.
okay.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you. Okay. Also, too, it's clear process for communication with the executive director, which is extremely important. Yes, Pam, thank you. Thank you for my mental note. Sometimes I feel like I have dementia.
You just have too much
Um,
going on.
the group home type setting, yes, you have a licensed you have someone that's carrying the license in a group home, but you're not really dealing, the executive director is not in the building, in the home 8 to 10, 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday. And after that, we have a nurse on site that is the manager on duty after the executive director leaves. And we also have a nurse. So there's always a manager on duty 24 hours a day. in a Kelch community. And in regular communities, there's always a manager on duty, yes. But
Yep.
those are kind of the differences. You just get a lot, in my opinion, you just get a lot more supportive services in a community. But group homes are an option too. I mean, everybody has their own opinion, and if somebody walks into a group home and they find that that's the fit for them, then absolutely. It's all about the feeling too. I mean, making the
Well,
connection
I
too.
think I think there's lots of things that little factors like what does the place smell like? Um,
Oh, yeah.
and what
Cleanliness.
and then asking the person who's trying to get you to move in, you know, I want a list of the qualifications and training that you do.
That's
So these
right.
are all, and I have a list, and maybe I'll put the PDF in the link on Friday on with the video that it's a list of questions to ask a memory care community.
Yes.
And it's not that if they answer a question differently than what I would say is important, like 7 by 24 hour registered nurse, an
That's
LPN
right.
wasn't good enough for my dad. We needed RNs. And I'm fine with that. And so that was important to us, but it may not be important to everybody. Matter of fact, I have several
Right.
clients, caregiver clients who are like, I don't care about that. And I'm like, okay. Cheryl had, was it, no, Cheryl. So we'll get to your question, Cheryl. But sadly, Amy said that you don't have a community in Indiana. So the thing
Mhm.
to, you can still ask these questions of these communities. And you said
Yes.
there's only one option where you live, which means you have to think about someplace else outside of where you live. And because the thing that intertwines with this decision is, and almost all of my spouses do this. Well, I want to be able to visit him every day. No, the care community does not want you doing that. A group home
No.
is basically so that everybody knows, and we'll talk about this in when I guess it is my turn. Um, so a group home is basically a house with 5 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms, maybe, small yards
Mhm.
or a yard, and everybody eats at the kitchen table, and everybody is limited to inside that house and or the backyard. And
Right.
if you're from Arizona, the backyard is not an option between May and pretty much October, end of October or later. So, but if you're not, I mean, you still have to keep track of people. And to me personally, neither one of my parents would have done well in that environment. That is just not enough space. The beauty of a community, in my opinion, is in addition to having more eyes on them 24/7,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because I don't know how many staff you have usually or what your average is, but you've got caregiver staff, you've
Mhm.
got even the office managers are paying attention
Yeah.
and they're trained. The executive director, the community relations director, the nursing staff, the med tech.
Mhm.
I mean, literally, we're talking
You have a
about
team.
you got an entire team of eyes, the chef,
Mhm.
the chef's
Yep.
helpers, all those people are watching and they know everybody's names
Yep.
and they're able and they know how to get people to do what they need them to do, like sit down to eat. And so those are the things you need to be asking a different care community and not assume that your proximity to that community is the number one factor. Because
Right.
one, it's not helpful for you to be visiting and be there all the time. It's not helpful for them to integrate and get to know their new friends and the staff because they're going to lean on you because you're
Mhm.
familiar. And we can talk about abandonment and all this other stuff on another webinar, that feeling. But in reality, what Paige is talking about, safety, training, having someone that you can escalate to, right? Which is what the
Yes.
executive director is. And did we have to escalate? Absolutely 100%. Nothing is perfect.
No.
So, I think it was, let me see, Amy, when you went in and people looked miserable, that doesn't mean they were miserable all the time. They could have been tired. They could have just finished an activity and be sleeping in their wheelchairs. You don't,
Right.
taking one, and that's another tip that we didn't share. Just visiting once is not enough. you have
Mhm.
to go in the morning, right after lunch or during
Mhm.
lunch. You're always welcome to eat with the people. That's a thing. And then, maybe you go at 3 in the afternoon. Three
Right.
in the afternoon, maybe 2 in the afternoon is better because as the day goes on, these residents get tired because they got up at
Mhm.
breakfast. They did an activity. It might be bouncy ball or noodle swap games or puzzles or painting. They listened to music. They might have danced. They had lunch. They did more stuff by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they just want to, rest, which is what, Kelch
Yes.
has a resting time and everybody's watched and everybody can kind of take it down a notch. And you could have very well walked in there. Now, are these people
Mhm.
potentially in pain and having some issues, arthritis and eyesight and, hearing problems? Sure.
Mhm.
You're not
Yeah.
walking into a healthy environment, like independent living. So
Mhm.
try not to walk in with a bunch of assumptions. Oh, the people look miserable. I'm not doing this. You're probably, I hate
Right.
to say it this way, and I could be wrong, but you're probably not getting the full picture.
That's right.
So go back and visit multiple times. Paige, do you agree?
I totally agree. And I totally agree. And there was a question in here. Thank you, Pam, for that, because I mean, I mean, you were that daughter that
Yes.
lived, yes, and you knew, and it was difficult for you, and you had to learn through it and understand, okay, now the more that I see it, the more I'm learning, as an adult child and as
Yeah, your
spouses.
first assumption is, oh, I'm not going to go here. This is not a good place.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then you
And
learn.
it can be disheartening. I mean, it can be for people that have never, walked
Never
into
been
a
in a
memory.
memory care community. Yeah.
Right. And it can, but we meet them where they are. And in this stage in life, some of them they're all in different stages. And
Right.
it's,
And they're
you
all
know,
feeling different ways. Yeah.
they're all feeling, and there's a lot going on that, maybe we're trying to identify, but they can't verbalize it.
Can't
So
talk.
we have to really look at the nonverbal cues of what's going on with them to
Mhm.
really see. And lots of teams, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that families just don't know.
No,
Um,
no.
and that's okay. We want the family of the loved one to know exactly what's going on.
Mhm.
But for the other families, you've got the HIPAA and the privacy and all that stuff. There's things you know what I mean? You just can't
Yep.
go there. But
Right.
there are a lot of things that you just have, like Pam said, you need to visit more. And there was a question in there from, I think was it Dawn? Dawn and
We
Sis. Sorry.
we we asked answered his question.
Okay. To be
Oh, to be
clear,
clear, you said that no, not to visit loved one ever. Yes, Don,
that
yes, that's true. That is what.
Yeah, it just, and it kind of depends though too. I mean, typically no, we don't suggest that you visit every day, and for your mental health and for them, depending on what's going on, each person is so different, right, Pam? I mean, if you
Yeah,
visited your mom
I
every
would never.
day,
I personally agree with the capital letters no for
I
Don
know.
and Sis because one of the biggest challenges that my clients as caregivers have is stepping away from their
Yes,
loved one.
yes,
And
yes.
so it feels like identity theft. As a daughter, that's how I felt too. Is,
Hmm.
I don't know who I am if I'm not taking care of her. And so by not visiting, I had to find time or use that time to go make more friends or do things with my friends that I hadn't been able to do because I was caring for my mom or looking after her or my dad. And so you have to separate yourself. So there's
Yep.
huge amounts. Most couples have codependent behaviors and they don't know how to live their lives independently anymore. They're not individuals. They're this couple. And that doesn't necessarily behoove giving your loved one the best care possible. And so they're in conflict with each other. And we work through that in conversations about, how do you separate yourself? How do you have some autonomy? But you can visit, and sometimes this is really hard, but visit 3 or 4 times a week and
Hmm.
visit for an hour or hour and a half. Do not visit all day long because you're creating a dependency for that loved one. And just like sending kids off to school, because it's that time of year, there's that separation anxiety. Well, where are you
Mhm.
going? And it's like, well, I'm going to go take the dogs out. I'll be back. Don't say when, just say I'll be
No.
back. So, and that's a whole other webinar to talk about how do you navigate that whole thing. But the one thing I did want to say that you can also ask as another criteria is, do you have separate environments for high acuity and low acuity? So high acuity is high
Mhm.
need, low acuity
Mhm.
is lower needs. So like the people who can walk and probably talk, they still struggle with instructions and that type of thing, but they can process more. And so the thing that I loved about Kelsh is that mom started out in low acuity. She was doing pretty well. And but then we think that she had a TIA or some stroke-like event, and she had to move to high acuity. And basically, that's a different dining room so that there's more caregivers. When a person starts to fail more, there's more caregivers there to help with, whether it's picking up a spoon or a fork or putting your napkin on or making sure that they're eating and drinking, which is actually the key reason, in my opinion, why caregivers are there, because the
Right.
UTIs are so prevalent as people get older. UTIs are urinary tract infections. And it's because as we get older, even in our 60s, we don't drink as many fluids, like water-based
Mhm.
fluids. Coffee and tea are okay. So it's important that you have somebody who knows to do that. Now,
Yeah.
if you're a spouse and you tell your spouse, here, drink more water, they're going to throw it at you. Don't tell me what to
Yeah.
do, right? But if a caregiver comes up and says, oh, look, you've got 2 of your 4 glasses done. Let's see if we can finish those. Very different. First of all, different person. They don't have a role in their lives. And secondly, they
Yeah.
know how to approach them. So those are some of the factors that are important to consider in talking about the group home versus a community. To me, the biggest difference is communities have more eyes on care. They have an
Mhm.
what do you call them? Something living, active
We
living.
call them active living director.
Active
Mhm.
living director. So someone
Mhm.
who is trained and understands how to create a calendar full of events, make
Mhm.
sure that the community actually does them, which is another reason to show up during activity time and say, well,
Yes.
this is on your calendar. Why didn't it happen? I had one client who was furious. He's like, I'm paying X numbers of dollars to do these things, and they never happen because they don't have enough staff. It's like, well, they lied to you. That's breach of contract. And someone did ask this question, Paige, and I want to make sure that we capture it, is this is a month to month agreement. It is not a
Oh,
contract. It is not a
no.
CCRC, which is a lifetime community commitment where you spend $250,000 or more to buy your spot, and then you pay another monthly fee just to
Right.
have the facility, you have access to the facility. So
Right. Yeah, we are just month to month. We're not a continuing care or a life care community, which is a buy-in. So we're not, no, we are just month to month, period. And
right,
so
most
yeah,
of them
it's just
are.
right. And we also have respite services and short term and day stay and stuff like that. But yeah, at most of them, because care, you can't in a memory care community across the board, unless you are in a continuing care life care community, then you're it's month to month because we don't know what's happening with their care. Now we
And
can
they
take
don't
care of them
want your
until they
money and then have to give it back.
right,
So,
right,
yeah,
exactly. So everything is can change and in our communities and in most communities memory care this is where they live their last days. I mean, most of us we're all able to do end of life care. So
yeah.
and I know we do a very good job of that. So but you, I mean,
Age.
Pam, you toured how many homes? I mean, you grew. I mean, you toured. I mean, how many
I
communities?
I moved mom once from the condo, or both mom and dad, because dad had vascular dementia while mom had Alzheimer's.
Hmm.
I moved once, and I got a list of like 25 from a placement agent who just kind of threw the list at me and said, figure it out. And then the next time, mom's doctor said, this is where you go. You go to Kelsh, you go to Rock Creek. They have the best staff and she'll be happy there. And I was like, okay. So that was nice to have that help.
Yeah.
So Paige, we have 3 questions to go and we've got 15 minutes to do
Yep,
it in. So
we do.
what's number 4?
Okay. Number four. Okay. A caregiver asks, I was thinking of bringing a professional caregiver to take care of my mom as an interim step to moving her to a community. At what stage is that too much for an in-home caregiver and I need to move her?
So this is, and someone had asked this question. I think it was Cheryl asked the question. So it's a good idea to use a professional caregiver. I typically recommend using an agency like, Visiting Angels, Home Instead. I mean, not specifically those, because you can look up, just do a Google search for in-home care agency. So those 4 words. And you will be able to find ranked by Google reviews how well they provide services. You can read the comments. And then you give them a call and say, here's the situation. And then they would do an evaluation of your loved one, and then they would send out who they think is the best match for both
Mhm.
need and personality. And I will tell you that you will go through more than one in-home care caregiver, because
Yeah.
the match doesn't always work out, even though we thought it was. The person doesn't accept them, the spouse doesn't accept them. There's a lot of things. It's an option, but it's also an
Mhm.
expensive one,
Very.
because they're going to bill out at $50 an hour for someone with dementia. And this person will take them out to museums and parks and that type of thing. That's what they should be doing, not just sitting and watching TV together, because that's the wrong caregiver. You can report them to the agency and get another caregiver. But similar questions to what we just went through. So
Mm.
that, my clients have had private caregivers come in. So my friend Nancy's husband used this person. Okay, that doesn't mean it's going to work for that person. So you can try it, and it will. The big key thing why most of my caregivers spouses are doing this is because they need to sleep, and they're not
Mhm.
getting any rest because this person's up in the middle of the night and they're worried about them. And even if you have a baby monitor to listen to what's going on, then you're up because they're up and you're wondering what they're doing. And it's just a bit of a hot mess. Whereas if you had them in a community, which is cheaper, less expensive,
Yeah.
typically, um, they're going to have night staff coming in and checking.
Mhm.
I know I've had people who will wander at night, and the
Yeah.
caregivers are keeping an eye on them. They'll walk with them, or they'll be just like, okay, go around the loop one more time and I'll be here for you. And if they don't see them, then they can go look for them. But they're secure environments too, which is really important. So that's my thought on in-home caregivers. What's yours, Paige?
Well, Pam, you hit big points and they're all very valid. I think that as you're doing research in communities, it can be a great option in the interim. Yes, absolutely. Long term, like Pam said, it's going to be extremely expensive. Number two, well, the biggest thing, and Pam, you and I have talked about this several times, is you can bring someone into your home, but you are instructing them, you are training this caregiver on your loved one at a constant, because this caregiver may have other people that they're working with, and they may have people that they sit with that don't have dementia. So they have to constantly go back and forth. But what they can't provide is a change in the environment.
Right,
That is the key.
right.
And you would be shocked to know when someone has their loved one with a caregiver at home. And I love working with families when they have a caregiver at home and they're coming to a community, because it's such a success story for the most part. Now, again, the transition to a community can be rough and it can be
30 to
bumpy.
30 to 90 days. Don't expect
30
it to
to
happen
90
overnight.
days. I'm not discrediting the unhoneymoons
The
or the honeymoon,
transition
the
period.
transitional period, right? But once they get in, you'd be surprised. we even when they come from home or even when they come from like in a regular assisted living where there's just, there's like one caregiver to maybe 30 residents, you would be shocked at the environment when they come out of their home or out of a regular assisted living into a memory care setting. It's night and day
Well, it's
because they've got
easier.
all, yeah,
Yeah, they're used
oh
to
yeah.
having people around. Yeah, as opposed
Yep.
to this, I'm isolated in a house and I'm watching Westerns all day. And now all of a sudden there's people around. I was like, well, where are all these people coming from? And it's unsettling
Right.
initially until they acclimate, and that's fair, right?
Yes.
But it's a better environment for them, even if they sit in a wheelchair or a chair in the living room and just observe. It's more stimulation than they're getting at home. How sad is that? But it's true. Bottom line.
I know. And
Okay,
you've got
Paige.
somebody that lives dementia 24/7. Staff again
Right,
that
right.
are
They know how
living and
to,
breathing,
right,
in the dementia world. So
right.
it can be a great service and it is great service for some people. Longstanding, I don't know how people can afford it because it can run up to about anywhere from between 30 and $40,000 a month full time.
Oh, no,
Full
no,
time.
no. If you're doing 7 by 24, it's $150,000 a year.
Oh, a year. I was
So,
talking
oh, you're
month.
saying 30, you're saying a
Oh,
month,
oh,
30 to 40 a
oh
month.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
no,
exactly.
no.
Yeah. It,
Yeah,
it
if
can
you
it can do that. Yeah, right.
yeah,
So
it can.
so it's crazy expensive is
Yeah.
what. So that brings us to number 5, which is a caregiver asks, how do I start researching care communities? How do I address costs? And then are they negotiable at all? Now, the other part of this question that I didn't put in here, that I got from an email is, how do you protect the loved one? How do you protect your finances so that you don't spend all the money on their care? And then if you need care, you don't have any money left. So that to me is a
Mhm.
separate webinar. So
It
let's talk a
is.
bit about costs and how do you research communities, Paige, and then we can do that in 5 minutes so we can get to the next question.
Okay. Well, sadly, I see a lot of families come in and research communities that's well beyond that might serve them best. And oftentimes they wait
Too
way
late,
too
right?
long. It's too late. Yeah. Yeah. And that's okay. I mean, it is what it is. It's the season of what we're in and not season. It's been happening for years, but people wait too long. And so it's the guilt and the stress of the actual move. I mean, this is where families are struggling so bad. They're like, how do I get my mom or my husband or my wife there? How does it actually happen? So, it's once you're doing the research, yes, and you can negotiate. Everything's negotiable. Now, my other thought to that is yes, you can negotiate. Yes. But there's a community fee. If you go into a community, there is a community fee. It's called a community fee. Everyone has one. Everyone has one across the nation. It is an entrance fee, okay? It is non-refundable. It is fully refundable until your loved one moves in. Now, is that negotiable? Everything's negotiable. Is everything for sale? If you don't ask, you don't know, right? So, yes, absolutely. You can ask these questions. Can you take off half of the community fee or can you waive the community fee? These are questions that you can absolutely ask. Negotiating the rent and care? No, not with us. Not with us. We do not discount any care. We do not discount any care. Other communities might, I don't know. Some do, some don't, but we do not discount on care. We just don't. And I would hate to say that if it were my loved one or my spouse or my mom, I wouldn't want a sale ticket item on my mom's care or my husband's care. That's just me. But yes, everything is up for negotiation. You can always ask communities if they will come down or if they have any specials. It's always best to ask those questions. I think that too, Pam, go ahead, chime
Well, I was
in,
just going to say,
please.
so what are some other resources? Let's say that, right now they're working through finances, they're working with a financial
Yeah, oh, there's
advisor.
lots of resources.
So you do work with the Memory Cafe. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so the Memory Cafe, I've been very heavily involved in a memory cafe in Arizona, and the Memory Cafe is a great start for supportive services to really find when you're searching and doing your research to find the best option for your loved one. Because number one, it is about connection. We understand that, and you have to feel comfortable with your loved one, and you have to trust this community. And how in the world are you going to trust somebody when you've only met with them 3 or 4 or maybe 5 or 6 hours? How do you do that? So, getting involved in a trusted memory care or supportive services for residents' families is extremely important because they're going to be the ones that are going to tell you, okay, I have my wife in this community over here. And then, okay, I have my dad in this community over here. And you're going to get direct intel of what is going on with people that are in your space, because it's all about trust. Again, and I know we're kind of running out of time, but I wanted to go back to Dawn's comment. Do you visit every day or do you not? So I wanted to kind of just touch real quick. When you're moving your loved one to a community, like Pam said, you know, it isn't best to visit daily. It's just not. It really isn't. But in the beginning, when you are trying to find who the community is, build trust, build relationships in a very short amount of time, you can come all day long. You can come all day long and spend all day with us. Is it going to be best for you or your loved one? No, it's not. It's just not. But if you need to do that in the beginning to find the trust of the community and the staff trust and the leadership team, the whole community, then you family members can do that all day long. We have, I mean, like Pam said, I mean, we have a gentleman in one of our communities in a different state, and he visits every single day for 8 hours.
Yeah,
And
that's way too much. He has no
and it's
life.
and we're working with him. Believe me,
Yeah.
he just moved his wife in about 90 days ago. And he is just now starting to feel comfortable that he can start to go golf or, go on vacation, do other things, and feels confident with our
Right.
community to where he can do that. So
And we
I
can
just kind of
talk
wanted
about
to preface
visiting
that.
on in more
Yeah.
detail another time, but I wanted to make sure because again, we're losing people because we're
We're
running out of
losing.
things. So someone had asked both in email and then I think in here, it's like, well, how do you know the best communities and how do you know if they're safe or if they're any good? Well, the criteria that we've provided, as well as what will be on the landing page of the with the recording in it, is also the fact that you should look up your state's public health reports and inspection report and safety. Every state has it. I mentioned it in my book as well. And so I gave you an example in the chat of the Health and Human Services for Texas and the providers for senior care. And it lists what town you're in Texas. So you can scroll down and I think I gave you the right link. So there's long-term care is what
Mhm.
what you probably want to look at. And then it'll give you, let me give you this one, make sure you, and for the one person who's here from Texas, that you can go through it and it will tell you, okay, this place was inspected. We found, one thing, or we found 10 things, and that doesn't make them bad. It just means that how they recover from that is what's most important, right? Because no one's perfect. None of us are perfect. And so it's important to look at the state inspection and safety reports, make sure that this place doesn't have like 40 in one month or one inspection. But then, you can move on from that. So let's go ahead and uh, let's see. So let's get to number 6.
6.
That's you, Paige.
Type. I'm ready emotionally to move my dad into a memory care community, but I'm worried about the staff and that he won't feel loved. Even worse, he may feel abandoned. How do I work through this fear? That's
So
awful.
I felt the exact same thing. I was worried that she would feel like I left her and abandoned her. What got rid of that immediately was I went to her room to put her away her stuff, and they took mom to the activities room. And I walked in, and she was painting a birdhouse with they used to call them activities directors. And I was I mean, she was just happy as a lark. I mean, she was just having a good time and she was laughing and so I there went that fear. And when I would come and go, I would use the right phraseology. I wouldn't say, I'll see you on Tuesday, which I watched somebody do this. I'll see you on Tuesday. Well, they don't know what Tuesday is. Just say I'll be back. You don't need to say when. It's not important. They're not going to remember, but it creates anxiety when you say Tuesday. It's like, well, when is Tuesday? And it's like, well, Tuesday's 3 days from now. Well, when is that? How many days is that? And you just get them all worked up. Don't. So often we try to use logic and reasoning, which I think is our August topic, to try to help this person understand what we think. Don't. Just stop. Let it go. So my fears were unwarranted. All of the staff in a good community have been trained on soft skills, how to handle an individual who's irate or gets angry or frustrated with themselves or somebody else. You're sitting in my chair. Caregivers know how to take that all down a notch. So they know what they're doing, and you have to trust the process. And I will tell you that most of that fear comes from letting go of your role as caregiver and returning back to your role as son, daughter, husband, or wife, and visiting them from that perspective. And it's a hard thing to do. I didn't say it was easy, but that is something you learn. And then if you have questions, talk to the nurse, talk to the executive director, say, hey, I'm trying to deal with this. You're not the first person. You're not the first family member to walk in and kind of freak out about, well, I need to visit all the time and I need to, and Paige, like you said, you were helping out that gentleman make the transition to having a life. So what are your thoughts on this question? Quickly. Sorry.
It's very you nailed it, Pam. I mean, it's really case by case. Everyone is so different. It's building that connection and really connecting and asking a lot of questions. I mean, Pam gave great information in the chat there. And I think too is get in touch with a memory cafe too, and a support group. A support group is key. A
Yes,
support group
you'll
is
make
key.
new friends and they will be
Yes.
relatable.
It's a
Okay, last
very good start.
question. A
Okay.
caregiver asked, my family and I have selected a community and put down a deposit. Do you have any tips on how to get my family member to move?
Mhm. Okay, so if you put down, okay, we'll do this quickly. If you've selected a community, yes, you've selected a community, put your community fee down and you're ready to move mom, your spouse. Um, Everything is case by case. We have to do the assessment. We have our nurse come out and do the home visit. We need to find out all these different variables, and everyone's move-in story and transition is different. I'll give you an example. We have a lady that moved in, okay, a gentleman that was living in Tucson and living in an assisted living, coming to memory care, and the daughter was extremely overwhelmed on how to get dad here. Well, how are we going to do the assessment? They're going to know where you're from. No, no. We went down there and we were a nurse from Medicare. And unfortunately, we're not lying. We are a nurse, and
Comfort
Medicare
story.
does send in nurses to do home assessments. We were doing a home safety check. Long story short, we got to know him a little bit, her dad, and learned how we're going to get him into the community. And he came in, and we had a little job for him. And he came in for a few days a week to
Oh,
start as day stay for a few days. And then the next week, he came in for 5 days a week. And then the next week, he just moved in.
yeah, perfect. Yeah,
So
and yeah, that's
it
a
just
great
depends.
example. Yeah. And try you got a couple of choices too, right? Because we mentioned respite stay, day stays, coming in gradually, and that works for
Yes.
some people. And then our experience and some of my caregivers, it's like, look, don't bring them to the your initial meeting. And I hear so many
Right.
daughters saying, well, I want to see if they like it. No, that's not the reason why they're going to memory care, is to make sure they like it. Your job is to focus solely, not on them, but on what the community can provide, what kind of training they have, to not the size of the box. I always call it the box because it's an apartment, it's a box, and is,
Right.
bring the furniture that fits and move on. So many people get caught up in that. So instead, focus on what the care community can provide, no matter what it is. And ultimately, when you bring your loved one, there's two different ways. You bring them in gradually, and they have a job to do and make sure that the community understands how to do this. They may also advise you, look, when you're ready to bring them in, well, here's the move date, August 1st. That's the first time he sees the place. And then you say, okay, we're having lunch at a new place. You go to the place, you go to the community, you have lunch with them, and you say, look, I've got to go take care of some errands. Why don't you stay here and, have a conversation with somebody, or, these people are going to show you around, and you leave. And yes, it's
Mhm.
hard. You're looking back, you have tears in your eyes. It's just like it's a separation anxiety is what it is. And you can
Yes.
totally do that. But don't bring them along with you to see if they like the place. No, that is not what
Mhm.
we're trying to accomplish here.
No,
And nine
no,
times out of 10, they will not like it
no,
initially. It's a huge
no.
transition for them. And they're always going to prefer hanging out with you over meeting strangers. That's
Right.
natural, but they can move through it. So
Yes.
that's my thought on that too.
That's perfect.
Oh,
That's
I'm
right.
so glad to hear that. Oh, thank you, Paige. Very helpful. It's not that simple helping families navigate the Alzheimer's journey. So
Yes.
we've covered a lot of information. We could talk for another hour.
We
Let us
could.
let it be easily knowing us. So if you have more questions, or you want us to do exactly that, have another webinar, please send me an email, Pam@itsnotthatsimple.com. You can reach out to me on my website, Alzheimer's Family Consulting. You guys have my emails from this webinar, reminders. Just join us. And so next time, August 25th, which is the fourth Tuesday of the month, we need to get that on our calendars page.
Yes.
So thank you for attending. Thank you for your questions. I know it's been a little rushed. And we're so appreciative of you being here and allowing us to share what we've learned, our lessons, our guidance, and our tips. And thank you, Paige and Kelch Communities, for hosting this and sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Pam. It's always a pleasure. We work wonderful together. And everybody, please think about Pam's book and also share this video with people. Don't be shy to share this to people. There's many, many, many people that this might help. Might help.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and, and join us. We're on monthly. So
Yep, exactly. All right, you guys, look for the recording email on Friday afternoon. It will have a whole bunch of information based on this conversation. So you won't just get the video, you'll have questions to ask memory care communities and some of the other tips that Paige has presented, and guidance, and we'll make sure that we get that to you.
all right.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye,
Take care.
everybody. Thank you so much, Pam. Have a
Bye.
good night. Have a good
Thanks, you
night,
too.
everybody.
Bye-bye.